we're going to get a whack at it in the small groups. But I think it'd be good for people to hear some general comments
Well,
about
I'll make
it.
a general comment then. Even the word properly for me raises some yellow flags because I translate that into use pesticides and fertilizers. And thinking about my lawn, I think it has been appropriately managed for the 22 years that I have lived there, for the setting and for my expectations and for the uses of that lawn. I have never applied a pesticide. And I feel like saying properly could very easily lead me down the path to thinking that I have been irresponsible in my turf management. But frankly, I have not been, given the greater picture environmentally.
But those are your expectations, and every consumer has different expectations, so it needs to be targeted
I think
at...
when you use the word properly, then that's going to get into a host of other things. I don't have to, Kevin Frank, installing a lysimeter on my property to determine how much N is going to run off. So it's a very complex issue, really. And I think we're going to have to be very, very
But
careful.
remember, we're trying to develop a statement that you can make in a minute that interests somebody to ask, tell me more. Because if we can't get them interested in asking that question about tell me more, you're lost.
So I make the recommendation of appropriate or
Something like that.
How about responsibly managed?
That would work for me.
Yeah, okay.
I also think that it sounds to me like maybe, I mean, we've stated that our goal is to come up with a sound bite and try to come up with some simple messages, but it seems as though maybe we're also learning that that goal in itself is getting the cart before the horse a little bit based on the things that Brian was saying. Maybe we should talk about designing some simple, some surveys that could get at the different kinds of goals that consumers have.
Can't do that today, though.
Well,
That could be a step.
but
It could be a step,
to
you're right.
plan for that kind of thing, if we're coming up with ideas for reasons why people might apply for grant funding, to take a project to the next step, that seems like something we're hearing might be worth
Right, I
talking
think
about
that's
as well.
really, I mean, I will just say, Joe, and the idea that we'd all agree on messages was noble, but we could agree on
On
some
survey,
steps.
people find out what might in fact be better messages if we take that step
Right,
first.
and again, identifying some research needs.
Well, there's two different things. Properly, in extension, what we're looking at is what is best for the plant versus what is best for the individual. And we have to take both into consideration, but our science is telling us what is best for the plant. And then we have to work with individual objectives, which are different. Is it a model home? Is it the White House? Is it an open field? Is it what? That varies everything. But we know what we can do to create a healthy plant. With grass, we know we can cut it higher, all the way from these cultural things that we can do to improve the quality of the plant. Everybody's going to agree on. How high do we cut it? Do we use a sharp mower? These things are going to be acceptable by everybody. And I think they're the things we're going to be trying to get to.
Yeah.
I have a marketing question. Can a key message be open for interpretation? Because to me, that's not a good key message. It's not concise. I understand where we're going with this, that a good, well, however you want to say it, a healthy lawn is good for the environment. I don't know if that's something that we can come out with as a sound bite, because I'm going to have a different interpretation than everybody else in this room is going to look at that differently, and our consumers are certainly going to be looking at that differently. I kind of think it's a dangerous road to go down. Can you just talk about the marketing aspect of that and how a good key message can be open for that much interpretation?
Well, I think a good key message is something that draws people from all walks of life in to learn more about the message. And I honestly don't know that I've ever seen a key message that is so focused on one particular audience, you know, that it couldn't be misinterpreted by somebody else. You know, again, I think the goal with the key message is to get people to ask the question or say, I want to know more. And that's the approach that we're trying to take with that here. So I think in your mind, well, maybe a properly managed landscape raises questions. Well, what do you mean by that? The person next to you may want to know more about turf, where the other person on the right of you may want to know more about shrubs and trees. So by keeping it somewhat broad-based. It gives the opportunity for everybody to see where they can fit in, to the solution, so to speak. So I would encourage it to be a little bit, broader, intentional.
Yeah, I just feel like it's way too
If
much.
it's
One
too
thing
much,
that I
okay.
really loved about our Water Our World is that they identified the audience,
Yeah.
people that were going to apply pesticides.
Yeah.
And I think we probably should spend some time, more time debating, okay, who is our message for? Is it for the people like Carrie that aren't going to be doing anything, or like myself, I mow it every once in a while? Or are we going for the people that are applying the pesticides and the fertilizers on a more regular basis?
It's a thought.
Audiences and kind audiences.
What about the people who are applying the organics?
But they're still applying.
They're applying a product. So anybody who's applying any product needs some education.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that
I think if you go back to what my message that might have gotten lost after yesterday morning when I gave my talk was that, and it might actually bring this together in terms of maybe what we're talking about is putting together a message to all the segments that we really should be looking deeper in, but we want to all somehow come to some agreement from here in terms of what would be the keystone that we all agree on,
Right.
and then go through the process of figuring out for each of the various markets, like was mentioned here, for the people that are going to use it, let's make sure they're going to use the right one. For people who don't want to use it, let's give them alternatives that'll maintain the healthy landscape. So forget about the wording and stuff, but I mean, the whole purpose of our project was landscaping can serve both the needs of the homeowner and as well as preserve and protect the environment. And so that's all we're talking about. And then the question is, okay, well, I want to grow a lawn, what do I do? Then you've got a whole way to go. Oh, I don't want to use any pesticides, or I don't want to use any herbicides. Is there anything I can do to do that? Oh, I like the idea of organic. How do I deal with that? Or what works with that? Oh, I got to put something down because I can't deal with these insects. What is the least impacting thing for me to do?
How about something as simple as landscapes or landscaping for you and the environment? Then we don't have all this appropriate, responsible stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't have what's appropriate.
I like that.
It takes away all those words that are scaring people.
Or judgment.
Right, judgment.
I like what Betty just said, and I added something, your home landscape is an important part of is an important piece of our environment. Please manage your property responsibly.
But then you're still leaving words open for interpretation, because Carrie thinks that using pesticides and fertilizers is not responsible in her definition of what responsible is. So I use them, does that mean I'm being irresponsible?
So keep it simple and not judgmental.
Like Steve said, we're also talking about more than landscapes.
Right.
So and if we're talking about, like you said, educating the public, we can talk about more of the details. If we're going for a quick soundbite, we want to have the carrot. If the audience is the public, we want the carrot for the public. And I would suggest that being good for the environment is not a good enough carrot for the public. The objective of this seminar was clean water quality. So your tagline for the public might be clean water depends on responsible pest management. Pest management will include your landscaping, all your residential pesticide uses or organic compound uses. We're talking about pest management and how it affects clean water. And clean water is what the public is going to say. I need clean water. It's healthy environment.
We need to get
When you said
fertility in
landscapes
there,
too narrow,